Welcome back, everybody. So for today's video, I'd like to take a little bit of a different approach. There's some pretty serious allegations out there towards Tesla about racism, and I'd like to give my 2 cents since I worked at the company. It's a pretty difficult topic to talk about, and it's obviously something that, a lot of us that are of different race or descent or come from different countries may have experienced growing up, but I want to provide my insight and sort of my take on what's going on around Tesla and the alleged racism that's happening at the company. So in case you haven't been following along, there's a civil rights case against Tesla in California where they're claiming that the Fremont factory essentially is not a good environment for folks of different races, color, creeds, background, things like that. Essentially that they're claiming that there's hundreds of folks that have come forward in the last decade or so and claiming that there's an environment of racism at the company. Now, a lot of you in my DMs and in different channels have reached out to me and asked for my opinion on what's going on with Tesla. There's some folks that are coming forward being very worried. This is something that's systematic within Tesla. Others are just completely dismissive of what's going on. But I like to kind of give my opinion here since I have had experience with the company firsthand. First, I'd like to say that I did not work at the Fremont factory. I worked at the warehouse in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We were mostly focused on logistics, supply chain, distribution, things like that. So I wasn't actively working at the Fremont factory. So I can give you sort of my insight from what I've seen when I visited the factory, when I visited the different areas in California, so on and so forth. Now, I think I want to give you a little bit of background about who I am, where I'm from. So I was born in Spain, and both of my parents are from Iranian descent. And throughout my childhood, as I was growing up, I faced racism quite a bit, They were looking at me, they call me terrorist, they call me, all these different names that are meant to belittle somebody. Oftentimes it was, in a joking manner, maybe with folks that I found friendly and everything like that. So, there wasn't too much behind it, but there were definitely situations where I was being called something derogatory on purpose. And I felt that, and it hurt. It hurt quite a bit. But I can tell you with pure confidence, and this is something that I personally experienced, is that the environment at Tesla that I experienced was completely the opposite of what we considered racist or exclusionary. I can tell you firsthand that the environment that I was in was extremely inclusive. I can't tell you the different kinds of folks that we had at that building. We had people from all different backgrounds. One of the big things that the building was very proud of is that the majority of the leadership at the warehouse was female, which in a distribution setting is very, very unusual. We also had folks that were of Hispanic background, Black, Asian, white, you name it. You name it color, it was there. And the one thing that really stood out to me as well when I was traveling around the different sites is that same level of variety, that same level of diversity, I saw firsthand everywhere. And the other thing that I noticed at Tesla as well is that Tesla was very good, at least from what I saw, at ensuring that every single environment that we were in was inclusionary, that there wasn't any racism, that we were really, really hardcore on just hiring people and promoting people and enabling people that deserved it, period, right? Folks that work their butts off. It doesn't matter what they look like, who they are, where they come from. If you work your ass off and you're talented and you have a drive and you're essentially somebody who's out there willing to give as much as they can to the company, from my experience, and I personally saw this, Tesla was extremely good at moving those folks forward. But I think it's also important that I make this point that Tesla is a workforce that has over 100,000 people working there. So the chances of 1 or 2 people at a 100,000 person company that could behave in a racist manner or in a manner that's not consistent with what Tesla tries to teach its employees or tries to make happen within the company is something that could absolutely happen. So what I don't want to do is discredit the claims that are coming out of California. And I think it's important to hear from these folks that felt like somebody was racist against them, or if they feel like the company's racist against them. I think that's important. We live in a country where freedom of speech and freedom of expressing yourself and saying, hey, I feel like I'm not being treated fairly is something that should happen. But the one thing that's inconsistent with what I saw, and this is just my opinion, I do not want anyone here to base any decisions or any opinions based on what I say, but I just feel the need to say this, is that from my end, I felt that Tesla was completely the opposite of what a racist company would be considered. Now, for the folks that felt like racism was there at the company and they felt like there was some racially motivated decisions at Fremont or wherever else, I hope they find peace. I hope they find justice. I hope something good happens out of this that enables them to move forward. But I think it's also important to speak about the experiences that I had on my end, not only because people are reaching out to me and asking me about it, but because my experience was so positive. It was so positive. It was the opposite of what I would describe as exclusionary or racist. Like I said, there were so many different examples I could list where the variety, the different cultures, the different backgrounds, the different races, it just felt like a modern, very, very modern company that just brought on talent regardless of what happened and moved folks along regardless of who they are and where they come from. The sad part about this whole thing is that racism still exists in the world, in the United States, in California, and in other places. It's not something that has gone away. But I consider myself very lucky to have been part of organizations, including Tesla, where I was able to advance myself purely based on my merits. And I know of many others that have been able to do that as well at Tesla. And for those that feel like they haven't been treated fairly, I'm very happy that we live in a country where they're allowed to express that frustration. And we have a judicial system, both state and federal level, that usually gets this stuff right. So in closing, because my experience at Tesla was so rewarding and so great, I'm not going to stop supporting the company. But at the same time, I'm also glad that folks that feel like they haven't been treated fairly are coming forward and they're saying something. And if there's some truth behind it, then we have the system to correct that. But the one thing I truly do believe is that Tesla is not inherently racist, is not systematically racist. And if there's a few folks in that company that did do racist things or did do things that were not fair, they should be punished and they should be brought to justice. Thank you very much for stopping by and listening to me talk about this very difficult topic. And I hope everybody has an amazing weekend. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.